Absolute silence. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast with your host, Brandon Cox.
Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 52 of the whole magazine. I'm joined by some lovely folks here. You heard him when we joined. It's Oscar.
Hello, everybody.
How are you, Oscar?
You know, it's been a while.
That is good to know. It has been a long time, but we are back with episode 52, and this one should be quite fun. We are also joined by the Mrs. Hello, darling. How are you?
Oh,
You're supposed to introduce yourself, Eve.
I introduced her.
yeah.
Yes, her name
This
Mrs.
is what number episode are you?
You know, this is 52.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Hi, honey. How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right,
Hello,
Mrs.
Eve. Her name is Eve. She's been on the show before, so it's not like it's,
I know. I just wanted to
Thank you, Oscar.
be
Glad
very
you're here.
belligerent and annoying.
You heard them on the last show. We have Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah.
It's great to have you guys back on the show.
Thanks.
And we're joined by his missus.
Hello.
The missus.
Hello, Jess. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we have a fun thing. I will describe that later. But first, right now, you guys can get 25% off when you use code Brandon25. It's August. My birthday is the 6th. And to celebrate, we are going to do a sale right now. So you can use coupon code Brandon25 to get 25% off on your qualifying purchase. If you spend $50 or more, you can get another coupon sent to your
God.
email address for another 15%
That's
off.
exciting. How much percent
Um,
off again, please?
25%
Oh
off
my
using
God.
code Brandon25.
25% off.
And then on qualifying purchases, you get another coupon for 15%. This offer is only valid through the end of August, so be sure to use it before that time. Any hoozle, we have the alcohol review. And today we have a Vint 2022 Merlot. They both look the same. So it's
Which
a
cup?
it's a Merlot. It's a dark red wine. It's gonna be. Last time we tried something, it was the Cabernet.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was the Pinot Noir. We tried the Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. That's good. It's good. It's really, what would you say, like tart grape, kind of like, it sounds shitty, but it's like a stringent jam. Or like,
Would you say it tastes tart grape?
tart grape? It's
Tart
like
grape.
tart grapey. It's not bad.
Imagine mixing rubbing alcohol with your favorite jam.
It's not that bad.
Oh
It's
my
quite
goodness.
It is that bad.
It is.
in
It's
fact,
quite
that bad.
good.
I have 2 bottles of wine at the place right now. And then one is from Justin. The other one is Apothic Dark. And they're both
Is that
red
bad?
wines. And one I think is 2021 and the other is 2022. And I was trying to crack open that 2021 and I was like, I can't do it. I'll wait for a special
That's quite nice.
occasion.
We are going to go back to the Taylor Port wine, though.
Mm.
You see, I don't have wine, but I do have Sprite, and that's pretty good.
What year?
Today.
That's a good vintage.
Yeah, I thought so too.
All right, that's going to conclude
Aged
the alcohol
all of
review.
15 minutes.
Today, folks, we have something that is the first of its kind that we're trying.
Very exciting.
We are going to be doing a collective political test. Oh, yes. If you guys aren't familiar with the 9 Axes political test, I highly recommend you guys check it out. We will be talking about the results that we got on this show. If you stick around, basically the idea is we're going to be doing the 40-something question version of the test. Let me get an actual answer. It's 45 questions. We're going to get a 45 question test. The idea is we go round robin and everyone says their category that they agree with. For example, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. The idea of how we're going to get the collective opinion on this is quite simple. Each of those things are going to have a numerical value associated with them. For example, strongly agree is going to be +2. Strongly disagree is going to be -2. And you can hopefully figure out the rest. We are going to go round robin. I'm going to be keeping track of everyone's answer and sort of changing what we are going to collectively select. And that's how we're going to do that. There's going to be some discussion on some things. If we want to, if we have some sort of points to get across, we are more than welcome to do that. As
I would imagine
we
if
all
there's
know.
like a question that someone can't understand.
yeah,
like,
if
doesn't
somebody
fully
can't just understand something, then we can go ahead and describe it. Also, we might also include sort of periods of time, so like 30 seconds to a minute for someone to justify their answer if they feel like they could.
Yeah, I mean, if justification's really
to
needed.
possibly sway somebody's answer. Now, the whole point that this is going to work is if we're answering honestly and truthfully, as in no one's going to be saying strongly agree most of the time, because if you do any political test that has a scale like that, you will know that is generally not how you actually feel,
Right.
unless you might be Nathan Hayes,
Or Walker,
who is not here.
Who's an
Yeah.
extreme, what is it called? An
Extremist.
extreme militarist.
Extreme militarist, right?
So, yeah, Stalin.
So we are going to be,
Holy shit.
it's going to be very interesting. And the fine folk here have already done this test. And so we'll be able to complete, they'll be able to compare exactly where they lie on this test compared to the collective. Now, why are we doing this, Brandon? I hear you ask. Quite simple. This is sort of a not perfect way of representing how our government works.
Yeah,
Because we have
generally.
people with differing opinions and they all come together to vote on legislation or push sort of things in our government to make laws. And so this will represent how different one person's actual ideology, political ideology, can vary so much to actually what the collective average is. And so we shall go ahead and dive in. Number 1, abortion should be legal in all cases. We will start with Oscar.
You said abortion should be legal in all cases.
Correct.
I would put agree.
Okay, agree. Eve,
Strongly disagree.
strongly disagree. All right, Jeremy.
Strongly agree.
Okay. Jess.
Strongly agree.
Okay. And then I personally believe strongly disagree. And that puts us at neutral unsure. Okay. I say this in sort of, I'll start off the conversation here. Being legal in all cases is a bit more too libertarian and sort of dismissive of what it fundamentally is. It's a decision that I don't think should be as simple as walking into a building same day and Bob's your uncle. That's it. I think that's a little bit too quick in this whole like it is death. You're dealing with a death of something, right? And you can have the opinions of whether or not it's legally a human or whatnot, but at the end of the day, it is a death, And I think legal in all cases, I think, is a bit much, just based off of statistics and what we know about reasons why people have abortions. It just doesn't come out to really being something that's needed out of crisis or in the most, commonly asserted cases, rape and incest.
I think that there should be a caveat to the in all cases. I do firmly believe that it should be legal in all cases, but I think personally, if you are considering an abortion, I think you should be able to make an appointment and have it a week or two out. Give your brain some time to justify your action.
Right.
And if you still, at the end of the day, at the end of those 2 weeks or week or whatever that lull period is, want to go through with it, I think you should be able to.
I think also with that, I like talking about compromise to see how these things work, because after all, that's what the Republican Party loves doing most. Is that person also gets a pamphlet of all the information of what goes on and really what happens,
Right?
And not only to the child, but also
To the mother.
the mother,
Yeah.
because we don't want to talk about the 80% suicide attempt rate amongst women who undergo abortions. We don't want to talk about that because that's bad. It's ugly.
Yeah.
And this is something that's really, really real that happens.
Mm-hmm.
The suicide attempt rate goes up by 80%. 80% of women who undergo abortions try killing themselves
After the abortion.
after the abortion.
Self-aborting.
Within what span of time?
Within like a year after.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
that.
not like they don't look beyond like 40 years, so they're like, oh, well, look
40
at this
years
person.
ago, this
look at
one
this
had an
person.
abortion.
Oh, there must be a connection. No, it's like relatively within the same span of time that they got the abortion.
Or if they hear the heartbeat or see the fetus
Yeah.
in the monitor, they're less likely
Yeah.
to
They're
go
like,
through with the abortion because it's like realization in their head.
I think the
Right.
figure is like 3 times or 4 times more likely to keep the child if they actually get an ultrasound. And there's organizations that actually provide free ultrasounds for women.
Right.
I just realized that the reason that it leveled out on neutral was because I put agree and not strongly agree. And that's mainly the reason why that you
I would
stated
actually
earlier.
like to address that because we had 2 strongly agrees
Mhm.
and 2 strongly disagrees, which puts us at neutral. And then
Right.
he would have been the deciding vote that put us above neutral into agree, not neutral.
Right. Well, if we go to you were agree, right? So that bumped you up. And then you said strongly disagree, bop, bop. And then you said strongly agree, bop, bop to agree. You said strongly agree, which would put us off the scale. And so I guess we could put it at agree if
It
we
would, it would,
Yeah,
I mean,
because
Drop it back
we would
down,
all
agree.
cancel each other out, and
Bop,
he would
bop.
even the score. He would be the
Bop, bop.
deciding
As-
vote.
Yeah,
you
we'll put
stated.
it as agree then. Okay.
there's
Abortion
a reason
should
why I
be
didn't
legal
go
in
with
all
strongly
cases.
agree, and it's completely as you stated. There's
And I
there's
think
always
that's sort of what we just got to is just sort of the what we all just said is considerations for things.
there's stipulations to everything.
Yeah.
I do believe it should be
Educating-
legal in all cases,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay,
but I
so-
don't put
Educating
strongly
the
agree 'cause
people
I'm not an
going
extremist about it.
undergoing
Right.
the
Right.
abortion is definitely
and
important.
and you know it's going to be a booklet like because
Yeah.
there is so much stuff that doesn't get talked about, and you know it is oftentimes a walk in walk out thing, and it's
Right.
and
Like,
There's no
incredibly bad.
education. There's no.
There's none of it.
There's
Now
no
with
physical
the
reading of
with the
any
advent of the
material.
abortion pill, it's only gotten worse.
my
you know.
biggest sway is the fact that it's a woman's body, so she should have her own choice.
Me too.
Well, like up until
kind of like
more recent medical innovating and education purposes and whatnot, there were women undergoing abortions as frequently as they wanted. Necessarily, they were doing it 8, 9 times, and then they were surprised when their fertility went away. They were no
Yeah.
longer able to get pregnant because of the scarring in their uterus.
also another
because
reason
they-
I don't strongly agree.
Well, here's another thing
they were
too
not
is
educated properly.
you know this is where me and you disagree is that it's not the woman's body.
If you get an
when it
abortion
comes to
8 times, you shouldn't get pregnant again, though, right? Because it's like every time
Yeah.
after that, you
And I-
clearly
you should
don't
be
want a
doing
child.
something to prevent that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know,
Yes,
Washington
absolutely.
State was apparently we were told by a friend of ours. Washington State was a state where you had like it was a abortion punch card, and after like twice they gave you a complimentary hysterectomy
You were not allowed to have
because
your uterus
you
after that.
were effectively just walking in, and you know at some point you have to some sort of is it extreme now by today's standards? Absolutely,
It is,
but you have to also consider there has to be some level of personal responsibility here.
Abortion should not
Right.
be used as health
It
care
is not
or
contraceptive.
exactly,
No,
yes.
it is
Right.
not.
It shouldn't be that's the word I was looking
Right.
for, contraceptive, not healthcare.
And that's
it
what
is
we
in fact
and you know
healthcare.
if we want to be honest, that's what we're seeing it
And
as
that's what I'm saying.
largely.
So if you strongly agree with something like this, it's just you're giving it too much leeway and leniency.
Yeah.
That's why if you're gonna agree with
and-
abortion, you have
Well,
to
the problem-
set some standard.
The problem with that though is that the reason I strongly agree is because a woman should have the right to get an abortion regardless of the circumstances surrounding it. However, they should be given the proper resources with or without health benefits for things like birth control. And free condoms are always available, but a lot of times people aren't educated on where they can receive these. They don't know where the nearest Planned Parenthood is, or they don't have a way to get there.
So in
I mean, that's
in
where you
summation,
and I-
it's just a lack of education.
I think also
you and I
I
could
think
agree with
the
that.
problem also goes deeper in that socially as like a larger society thing. If in the case of in the world where women could just freely go get abortions whenever they want, then I believe rightfully, fairly, and this is, you know, the woman exclusively has the right to choose, right? Then I think men should be able to opt out of fatherhood.
I agree. Here's
I think
No,
I
that's
think the
entirely
issue
fair.
I think the issue is we would find is a lot of single mothers,
a-
even more
a
than we
fucking
find
ton.
now. Because if there's nothing legally tying somebody to take care of a child, then all these shitty men are just going to take that and we honestly want to talk about abortion. Abortion is the go-to douchebag guy thing to say to a woman when they have sex and they go, "Oh, you should probably kill that thing."
Yeah, maybe
Well-
the reason that I do strongly
did that
agree is because
twice.
I'm not a piece of shit,
Right.
and like it's not like my oh fuck you're pregnant, you better go get that thing sucked out.
Right.
It's not
It's like,
that.
"Oh, quick, we got to go to a staircase,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Oh, I'm gonna
Right.
push you down. Yeah, it's not one of those things.
You're describing my dad.
Oh fuck.
Here.
I think
Yeah.
that another topic, which related but unrelated, but if the state is going to get involved with mandating whether or not a woman has the right to choose whether or not to carry the baby, then they should also come up with a blanket accommodation for male birth control, meaning state mandated vasectomies. If they do not want a child, then they should not be able to have one.
But then we're delving
And
into
see-
like a whole different
See
issue.
now,
Exactly.
See, so
It's a
this
whole
is
different
this
issue.
is the
Yeah.
thing. This is the great thing. Wait, you said earlier that it's the woman's body.
Correct.
Objectively, it's not. The moment of
child.
conception, it is completely different DNA to that of the woman.
Sure.
So if we're saying it's the woman's body, then we have to also agree that a woman at any point in time, while she's fertile, can have 20 fingers, 20 toes, 4 eyeballs,
2
which is
brains.
fundamentally not the case.
Sure.
So it's not the woman's body at all, right? And then we prescribe a policy which says we have to fundamentally alter males' bodies, which is actually theirs, as recommended. This is not jabbing at you, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
no.
the sort of like equivalency. It's like, wait, no, these aren't equivalent. Like this is the baby's body.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you could do a DNA test, they would be different.
The argument for it's the woman's body, I understand that. I know what you mean.
I understand what they mean as well.
Right.
Right.
And I think that, so my stance is, and it's pretty blanket, I don't give a shit if it doesn't affect me.
right.
It doesn't affect me. I don't care. If it doesn't affect me, I probably don't even know that you exist.
Right.
Like it doesn't, there's no bearing on your decision in my life in any capacity. So I go, I don't care.
Right. And I think ultimately is we also have this circumstance which happens sadly quite often is a father standing outside of a Planned Parenthood
Screaming and crying.
screaming and crying because
He now doesn't have
his
a,
child
a
is getting
grandchild.
murdered in a
See,
building.
My opinion about
In this world, men don't have a say at all, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
my
I mean,
opinion
it's-
about it is that there's a risk that comes with it. Let's say I'm allergic to peanut butter, and the peanut butter in this situation would be sex. If I'm allergic to peanut butter, I'm taking, like, if I make a peanut butter sandwich and I take a bite of it, I'm taking a risk for that allergic reaction. If I'm engaging in these acts, making, quote unquote, making the peanut butter sandwich, I take the risk of becoming pregnant, the biological reaction that your body would have to that. Not saying that you can't, do these things of your own free will, but it also has to change as a society to don't engage in these acts with people you're not willing to be married
Yeah.
to, you're not willing to have children with, or you're not, like strangers essentially.
I think your major point
be
is
more
personal
picky.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Is like so much of today's society is wanting to completely dismiss people's personal responsibility for their life and life choices. It's a great point.
I
That's a
think
good point.
that abstinence is unrealistic.
I
It's
also
actually
think that.
happening in
I mean,
Korea.
I don't think it necessarily is. You
Yeah.
know, you look back at the 50s and 60s where like, you were considered a Jezebel for like having sex
Unmarried.
as a kid.
They
you know,
were also
you were
getting married off at 15 so that they could have sex
right.
and have children
And
immediately.
We didn't nearly have as many problems with, single mothers and all these other crazy things that we have today. Maybe that
We
was
did have a very
representative.
large issue with domestic violence, though.
Oh, sure, because you had the rule of thumb.
It was considered a civil issue.
So long as your broomstick handle wasn't as thicker than your husband's son, he could beat you. Husband's thumb, he could beat you with it.
I think this has been a longer than a 1 minute discussion. Just so
One
we can
minute,
move on
one
to the
minute per
next.
person.
Oh,
so
okay.
number 2, people should have the power to choose their leaders. Oscar, I'll go to you last.
Strongly agree.
Strongly agree for Jess. Okay.
Strongly agree.
Strongly agree.
Agree.
Strongly agree.
Okay. And I say strongly agree. That's strongly agree. Need we say more?
Yep.
Number 3.
I was gonna say one little thing. I was trying to keep up with the questions on my own, like in the website, just to kind of like do it again, but just like follow with you. And I realized the questions are randomized, and I was
Yes.
sad.
Yeah, they
Because
pull from the larger
It's
pool.
a pool of 216 questions.
I was sad. Oh, you're doing the 260?
No, this is 45.
Okay. Okay.
No,
cool.
fuck.
So public utilities like roads and electricity should be publicly owned.
Agree.
Okay, you say agree.
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 Publicly owned.
Publicly owned.
Can we elaborate a little bit on that before
So does
giving
that mean
answers,
by
actually?
the people who live on the street?
Yeah.
So like a private road. Would that mean that
it
essentially every other road that you drive on, apart from the main thoroughfare, is a private road?
I would say that publicly owned would be sort of like a paid for by your tax dollars. So it is sort of, that is where it gets its
It's
funding.
not monopolized.
Right. It's not
Okay.
an actual private company.
So like
Agree.
the property taxes that I'm paying are going to go directly
Yeah.
into fixing the pothole right outside my house.
Sure.
Sick.
Yeah,
Okay.
publicly owned is
Agree.
I interpret that as being like state sanctioned and state ran, so your tax dollars and stuff go
Yeah,
to its
so like
operation.
if you're talking about like the state's infrastructure, like their roads, even the highways or
Okay. Then
all that
yeah.
kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like your state tax goes to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree.
Agree. Everyone basically was agreeing, so that's all strongly agree. Yeah, I think that the fact that massive and basic infrastructure, basic that we hold in like, the 21st century in a first world country, is not the one thing we consider to be operated by the state is kind of crazy.
It's weird. Yeah. That's kind of
Um,
bizarre.
Is what we would call like a right. But then again, you have to look at the healthcare system, and believe you me, I do not want the government really having universal healthcare at all.
Well, in North Carolina, the lottery money, like with the money that the lottery make, would go towards the roads in the state.
Right.
Like the taxes that would be taken out for the winnings.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's a great idea, as and also gets rid of a bunch of bullshit that happens in these sort of industries if you
I think the caveat there also is that there would have to be some
legislative barriers to
to make sure
Yeah.
that these things actually happen
yeah,
and that money is
it-
allocated
it,
correctly.
it would be a budget nightmare
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
the state. So there is a very harsh reality, but it is something that would be nice.
Yeah.
Catering to popular opinion is detrimental to a nation. This is question 4. Jeremy.
Repeat it one more time.
Catering to popular opinion is detrimental to a nation.
Agree.
Agree?
Agree.
Agree.
Strongly agree.
Okay.
Agree.
Agree. And I also agree. We're at strongly agree. Yeah, the idea, don't get me wrong, is what we want to be made to believe as popular opinion, like transgenderism, all this LGBTQ stuff. It's not popular opinion. It is
No.
maybe the actual people are like 1% of the population, or maybe at most 2% of the population. And you have a whole bunch of like white liberal Karens who, they get to talk about at their local cafe meet
Right.
when they post these things on Facebook. It's not a majority of the country.
It's not. Because I mean,
So-
despite larger population, 1% is still very large, and that's why we hear about it.
And so that question was also pertaining to your idea on should we have a true democracy, which is mob rule, which is like imagine us, the people, voting directly on bills that are passed by Congress.
We'd
Like
be
that is
screwed.
that is effectively what it would be.
Every time I hear catering to popular opinion, I immediately think patronizing like minority groups, ethnicity groups simply for their votes. Like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I
Even
hear
still,
catering.
luckily, that's a largely minority group of people who are doing that. Question 5: religion does not belong in government.
Strongly agree.
Strongly agree.
Agree.
Strongly agree.
Strongly disagree, but that would put us still at strongly agree. Reason being is you look at things that have united nations in times past. I point to the Crusades, where we had
Millions of
Islam.
people die.
Islam, for example, who had basically was just based on their religion, was steamrolling through the Middle East, around the Mediterranean Sea, killing people, because their religion said so.
Hmm.
And then the last time that the entirety of Europe basically united was during the Crusades. Like, we are all Christians. Let us go defend against a people who is literally seeking to destroy us.
There's a reason why there's a separation between church and state.
I feel
And I
like
also see
religion has caused more wars than it has ended.
You've seen European, like, because you said European got together for the Crusades. I'm 100% with you. However, Europe also was divided because their church was their government, and when you had other individuals who wanted to believe in what they wanted to believe in,
no,
they were hung or killed.
That
simply for
wasn't
what they believed.
that's not true at all. The Pope at the time asked the rulers of said nation to join in this effort.
Mm.
It wasn't like he rang a bell, and all the kings came like crawling around. No, don't get me
Imagine, though,
wrong.
That'd be pretty sweet.
That would be cool.
Dong.
Dong dong, and then like the current king of England comes crawling over, or
But
like
what would be the high
Literally.
religion? Would it be Catholicism, like the Pope,
at the
or
time
like
would be like the Holy Roman Catholic Church.
Like it's not rocket science.
but-
Obviously, they didn't run the government. I'm saying that basically they ran the
Well,
government.
people did things to get favor from the Pope, sure, but to say that the Pope had direct sway over how a king ruled his nation, unless you're going outside of
Is
like
he a liaison?
doctrinal things like, thou shalt not do X, Y, and
When-
Z
when
according
you
to the
have
Bible.
Power, right? And you're corrupt.
I think
you
you're-
can seek power in any
I
way,
think
bro.
you're really undermining the idea of the Pope literally asking the kings,
it
hey,
wasn't a demand.
you want to help? And they go, fuck yes.
Personally,
Because they are killing fellow
Well,
Christians.
the thing
I
about
mean,
that
I
is that
think
while
the
we
Pope
have a
made the king
separation
his
of church and
bitch.
state, I
That's
think
the way I
that
saw it.
religion still plays massively too large of a role in politics and government as it is. And
Which is crazy because it's even less than it was before.
So the thing about it is that we have all of these politicians nowadays, and they're speaking to millions and millions and millions of people via the internet,
Right.
radio, and they're saying that we have to believe in God, that we have to have these Christian values, we have to have this, and that is fundamentally untrue. As it states in the Constitution, we are not a Christian nation. We are not, and we shouldn't have elected officials essentially damning people who don't believe in God because they do. And I think that's super wrong.
they're
I have
preaching
not,
their
I
personal
have not
beliefs.
heard any politician sort of poo-poo on anybody for
Yeah.
not believing in
Me-
God.
I wouldn't say.
Well,
I have
okay, you're right.
either.
Maybe it's not the politician
themselves,
but it's the
it
group.
is the crazies. It
it's
is
the group
crazy
that
Protestants.
surrounds them. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
the crazy
say,
Protestants who are doing these things.
yeah.
these
Say
things.
you have Trump on at a rally and he's saying believe in God, and that's fine. You believe in God. You do whatever you want. You live your life based on what you feel is good for you, and that's fine. And they're not particularly, I guess I should rephrase, not telling someone to believe in God, but it's the followers of these people who can't separate people who don't believe in God and Satanists. Because if you don't believe in God, you're there for a Satanist, and a lot of these
And
people
the crazy Protestants who are
Yeah.
off their
And
rocker half
I
the
think
time.
that is why that religion should never be in a government, because the people that follow the politicians make it extreme.
I think that if we actually had like true to heart, like Catholics or Christians, like not like the crazy Protestants in our government who actually like adhered to scripture and did things appropriately,
Yeah.
and life would be ultimately a lot better.
But also, didn't they leave Europe and that whole continent to get their freedoms in America, to do what religion they want, celebrate what holidays they
Well,
wanted? That's the whole point that they came
no,
here for,
they-
is to get freedoms away
No,
from
they
Britain.
came here because they were told to. The people,
Initially.
Yeah.
the immigrants,
But that's the
the
whole point of
colonists
America,
were
is that there's so
literally
many
just told, hey,
religions.
we're
We're land of the
gathering
free.
people to go establish colonies in the Americas. And
Yeah.
that's why
You know what's
they
crazy too is that
went. Unless you look at Australia, which was literally just a bunch of criminals. It was basically an entire
an
continental jail.
encampment. yeah.
Yeah.
The religious part, in particular, it's crazy because there are a lot of people who will say badmouth like spirituality, and that mainly comes from like the natives who lived here. We stole their land, and we were like,
For sure.
your shit's dumb. Like we're not going to worship the trees. We're gonna worship God.
I wouldn't say it was stealing so much as it was conquested,
Yeah.
which is a lot different because like stealing is, taking without any sort of resistance.
and there was some fucking resistance.
Right. Which is why
Yeah, I
we
mean,
had
you're
conquest,
right.
right?
But I mean, when you think about it, we came in and we were like,
It's mine now.
Yeah.
guess
We're
what?
like, hey guys,
And-
we have fucking guns,
and
and,
we
you
also-
have bow and arrows.
Well, there was also a massive period of trade and
There
just
was,
literal like commonality between Native Americans.
when we got
and-
here, it was very much adhere to our way of life, and we'll continue trade, and we'll live peacefully. But when the natives didn't conform to the nth degree to our satisfaction,
Satisfaction.
satisfaction.
That was crazy.
That was really crazy. To our satisfaction.
There it goes again.
who was making
it-
them convert?
Well, when you think
The-
about it this way,
Well, the thing is though,
The founding
is
fathers? Question mark.
there was not really a. It was very much like, hey, we're gonna do our thing. you do your things. And there was mutual trade. That's why Native Americans got hold of firearms, and there was a lot of trade going on between the two parties.
Until
And
all the
also a lot of-
smallpox blankets.
And also
right?
a lot of solicitation of like, hey, can you go help us fight this other tribe because they're our enemies and they're bad? There was also a lot of that.
That's true.
Because I mean, there's it didn't happen in 4 days.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking time
Yeah.
that passed between.
There's a lot of time.
There's a lot of time.
Yeah,
Conflicts
absolutely.
happen. Like you can't just go period a piece of just trading and helping each
A
other
lot of-
out without
a-
conflicts. And that's where it goes back to exactly what she was saying. This fucking conformity thing. America was hugely imperialistic because for one, when they conquered the Philippines, they tried to conform into Christianity, which the Philippines completely rebuted, and a conflict ensued.
I think that is just fundamentally untrue.
Well-
When we
You don't
have
think
literally
imperialism
in the
is true, or do you don't
when
think
we
that
have the-
America's imperialism?
when we
is
had
true?
the first 10, I might agree with you, but pre-America, pre-US of A,
Mm-hmm.
but the country was built on the founding principle of the freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
We're
Right.
about a minute
And
in.
that's-
absolutely,
Yes, except
which
for the religions that we don't like, right?
Right, and there's religions where we should not like,
I fully agree.
Yes, absolutely.
which we should be vehemently against and be shouting on the rooftops that these people are bad news.
I
But
Which
I mean,
Britain is starting to really
we-
feel that right
we
now.
were
Yeah, well, I don't
making
know
the
if you
Native
saw, but
Americans
today in
take on-
Ireland, the Protestants and the Catholics joined forces in the streets and marched against the
Phenomenal.
Muslims today
Phenomenal.
or yesterday, whenever.
Because this
16
is
hours
we're in
ago.
another crusade, by the way. Like just be completely blunt.
it's almost
Yeah.
like religion is starting another conflict. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's almost
But
like
it's the religion that
Weird.
started it.
It's the religion.
Thousands of years ago,
it's the
too.
religion that has started it and has always started it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, there's no
Yeah.
debating that. You
There's
can't say
literally no. We have
because it is just a
1,400
fact.
years.
Yeah.
You can
we
just
have
say that all
1400
religion is
we have-
inherently bad.
We have 1,400 years of history to back all that shit up.
Yeah.
I
it's
mean,
bad,
this
and there's
war
no
that's
debating
going
that.
on
Yeah.
with
All religion is bad in a lot of ways, but it's also good in a lot of ways, like we discussed last time we were here.
Yeah.
It's bad, and it's a 50-50, and that goes for anybody. You can be radicalized in it, or you could not be radicalized
Yeah.
in it. And in this case, a lot of fucking people are radicalized in a lot of religions, and they don't see the point of view from other people.
Yeah.
I
They
mean-
couldn't sit in this room with the five of us, and they couldn't
They couldn't.
discuss our views with their views. They
But
just
that's
don't
why
mix.
The
that's why
war-
like it's important to revert right back to this question right here that religion should not be coincided with politics.
Yeah,
I will
I
have
don't
a
think
final.
that it
I will
should
have a final statement before we move on to the next question. Sorry, it is because the founding fathers never said that there should be a complete separation of church and state. It said that they were supposed to have. The idea was that there should be a distinction between the two.
Sure.
Is that a religious head should not be, say, the head of your government, right? There
Right.
should be a distinction,
Sure.
right? In court, you typically swear on what?
The Bible.
Which I
Well,
don't.
you have an option to.
Do
you
you?
don't have to. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to.
The more you know.
You
Is there an alternative?
yeah, you can choose any sort of book, or you can just hold up your right hand. It is very
Okay.
much a lackluster sort of thing because this country was religious.
No,
This
it's
country was
wild,
religious.
though. If
We were
if I did not swear in the Bible when I was